If it's the same applicant on another property and they have an obligation to the city, they probably will not be able to proceed with their plans.
I think that what you're trying to get to, and it's a great question, but corporations can dance through the loopholes. We create one hurdle, they find a way around it. So what corporations aren't necessarily collectible, people are. So I know on landlords, in landlord-tenant, we have responsible parties. So maybe you're asking for, if there is any type of obligation, like you're referencing, that there be, in addition to a corporate indemnification, there's also a personal, meaning the corporation is going to pay all the bills, but if the corporation's not around, you're going to personally be responsible for this. People can be collected against. So maybe if you're asking about that, we should look at the ordinance and come up with something that is, I don't want to use the word reasonable, but is defensible. So you have a good case of saying that we have a problem. How do we fix it? Corporations may not be as collectible as the individual franchisee. So maybe that's a path we can go down and investigate, see whether it's even doable.
I guess my further question is, how long are we going to deal with this burden that we had to pay for this and they're just not going to pay until somebody is interested in that property, and because they're interested in that property, they pick up the burden that actually the franchisee or Burger King should have had to take care of? I mean, it's making the new person interested in the property responsible for somebody else's actions, and that just doesn't seem right.
Correct.
That's my only point of view.
We'll add that to the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's reasonable.
Mr. President.
Whether it's enforceable or not, I don't know. Mr. Watts.
So, like most cases, I did my homework on this. And this does belong to Burger King Company, LLC. It does belong to the same LLC that owns the one at 8 Mile in Warner that was announced in the closing of 26 Burger Kings yesterday. So I went down to the 8 and Groesbeck location today, and I took a look at it, and indeed, it's been closed for a long time, and they had a pretty good fire in there, and it's a mess. It needs to come down. Now, doing my research, they actually pay their taxes on their buildings. Unlike most of the nuisance abatements we get, taxes aren't paid. This is currently, they're up to date on everything. So I would suspect it may be like the Tim Hortons that we tore down on Van Dyke. They'll just say, send us a bill, we'll pay for it. They don't want to deal with it.
Right.
I hope that's the case. But, you know, I was kind of hoping we could save the building, but it's a mess. The other concern I have is after the fire, you know, we have a property maintenance department and we have the blight team out there, and I was kind of disturbed with the mess that I seen out there, that nobody went down there and cleaned that mess up. I mean, there's stuff, there's garbage laying all over, there's oil cans. It looks like somebody changed their oil in a parking lot, and there's oil containers all over. It's a mess down there. So, I'd be glad to get this one off the books. I don't like to see vacant property, but this place is a disaster. So,
Let's not belay it anymore.
and, you know, hopefully they'll pay the bill to get it just torn down, so.
Yeah. Any additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. On the second to last page of the resolution, this does indicate that we're going to, following the removal of the nuisance, if it's not paid within the time specified, and I don't know if Mr. Lezay can indicate what that time period is. Is that 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Can you repeat that question? What is it for?
So it's in our, at the very end of our resolution, we indicate that it is further resolved that if the expenses incurred by the city in connection with the removal of the nuisance is not paid within the time specified, what is that specified time frame?
That I'm unsure of.
Okay, so
I don't deal with any of the billing processes of this. I get it to this point in the billing. It's maybe a question for controllers or public service that I do not know about the
okay,
payment of that.
let's say for the sake of argument that it's 90 days. They have 90 days to pay the bill that you incur for tearing down their building. Now, The issue that I have, that the attorney's office will be directed to institute collections proceedings, including but not limited to any civil action that may be available. I'd like it to be more specific and more explicit that we will pursue legal action if they do not pay.
I'm not involved in any.
I know that you're not involved, but that's my question to council, if we can make this language a little bit more concrete. And I'm looking to perhaps Mr. Schroeder to offer a suitable amendment that, civil action will be pursued, civil action will be taken, make it more direct and actionable. This is a warning shot. Mr. Kabasinski is eliciting the same concerns that all of us have. This is the same issue that we had with the old Pampa Lanes property, because we weren't convinced that, one, it was going to end up on the tax rolls, and two, that it was going to be paid back, and that we were doing somebody a favor by tearing down a commercial building at a cost of $150,000 or more. This is probably not going to be that much, but I want to make sure that we come out with a paid bill here, and that the actor that's involved knows that we're going to come after them if they don't.
So what you're asking for is a cost recovery ordinance?
I'm asking for a simple amendment here that perhaps the attorney's office could offer, that civil action will be pursued in the event that collections fail. That would be my amendment to this resolution, if that would be supported.
Mr. President, would that also include any of the time and attorney fees? I think they should be held responsible for that too.
Yeah, anything we can put in there.
I'd accept that too.
Mr. Schroeder, are you reading?
It says, "It is further resolved that if the expenses incurred by the city in connection with the removal of the nuisance is not paid within the time specified, the city attorney's office will be directed to institute collection proceedings, including but not limited to any civil action that may be available." That's the language that's there. You could include it, add it to include any legal fees shall be included as part of the costs incurred.
So you want to remove "will be directed" to "shall"? Or,
Shall be directed, and
well, not directed, but who's directing it?
that's just it. This is very vague.
That's what I mean by, if we do it here, it's "shall." So take out "will be directed" and replace it with "shall."
All right.
Is that acceptable?
The city attorney's office shall institute collection proceedings, including but not limited to any civil action that may be available.
Oh, I know why. Am I correct in assuming that the city attorney's office only goes after collectibles
Yeah.
within the borders of the city? So if you remember a couple years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, we contracted with the county, because the county can go beyond the borders of the city. There was a catering hall at Martin and Hoover, and the collections on that, we went to the county, because they can cross borders, we can't. So I think that's why. We're gonna go after Burger King. At their corporate office? Yeah, we don't file those suits. I don't believe.
I mean, they could be sued in Macomb County. They do business in Macomb County. They have property in Macomb County. Certainly Burger King LLC could be sued in Macomb County. Maybe I could recommend that we just say that you amend it to say the city attorney's office shall institute collection proceedings, including but not to any selection that may be available. And that could also include working with the county. It could include working with any other
There's not a
agency.
limitation.
Right.
Is that good?
That's good.
But we don't want to order them to pursue an action if it's not collectible, like probably not the case with Burger King, but just generally speaking, you want to give them flexibility so they're not.
Well, we're not telling them how to do it. It could be just a letter.
Right.
It could be a demand letter, as opposed to a court action.
Right.
Just says to take action, whatever action that may be.
Yeah, Mr. President, my concern stems that Mr. Lezay held a hearing, They didn't show up to that. So how confident are we that the person we're going to be going after is going to pay the bill? So I'm good with the explanation from the attorney. I want to make sure that we're putting some teeth to this resolution, that there is some legal remedy that we will be made whole.
So we are going to change the language from will be directed to shall. We're going, and in whatever form that may be, and also look at the ordinance to see if there is a cost recovery function in there that needs to be reviewed. Does that satisfy your request, Mr. Kabazinski, Mr. Lafferty?
I guess, Mr. President, my concern is what kind of message is, you know, they knew they were closing, they closed, and they just left it like that. And they didn't care, they didn't seem to care what the hell happened after they closed. And they left the city with this burden for us to deal with now.
Yes.
And that doesn't speak highly of corporate responsibility at all. And that's what the real concern is here. You know, they're big enough to send a message to, don't do this here to the third largest city in the state of Michigan. We're not going to tolerate this. And when we have corporations adding to the blight, it's not a citizen, it's a corporation. Mm-hmm. That's a big problem. And it just shows they don't have any respect for our city whatsoever. And that's a message that needs to be sent, that not only we will go after citizens for blight, but we're going to go after the biggest corporations for blight too. And we're going to send them a message too. And I think that needs to be sent here. I think Burger King's big enough to where they need to be sent a message, we're not going to tolerate this, and set an example for other corporations that might do this kind of blight to the city. It's unacceptable. That's my point of view.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts.
we've been through enough of these nuisance abatements, so, and I know I've asked some questions, but correct me if I'm wrong. We abate the property, we tear down the structure, and we bill them under a special assessment that gets attached to the tax bill, correct?
Correct.
All right. So I think that that's doing its due diligence. I mean, I don't like that we have to do it. I'd like to see us start making a profit, but I know we're hands are tied on that in dealing with this. But I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the BS&A, public record. Anybody can look this up. And their tax bills have been paid on time every year. The last tax bill was $18,222. So if we're going to tear this down, we're going to send them a special assessment, I'm pretty sure they're going to pay it. And that's more than we get out a lot, because most of them have 4 or 5 years to back taxes. Mm-hmm. We get stuck with the property, it goes to the county for a sale, and we wind up eating the money. Here, I think we're going to get it. I hope I'm right. So, I don't know. I mean, I get what Mr. Kabasinski's saying. If, you know, do we want them as a business in the city again after what they've done? I don't think we're going to have to worry about it because they're already closing up another location. I didn't research the list of Burger Kings to see if they're all owned by the same company out of Texas, but I mean, I agree. I think well, you guys know me. I'm hard on blight. I'm sure Bob Scott can't stand to hear my voice sometimes, but you know, it needs to be done.
Sure.
You know, we got a problem, and you know, we're going to pick on one. We need to pick on them all. We need to the city needs to be cleaned up. We drive around. I drove around down there today. I went and checked out the next building too, mm-hmm. And you know, I go check out one, and I find 15 other things. And you're lucky I didn't put it on the agenda tonight under neighborhood concerns. So,
thank you, Mr. Watts. Any additional?
Mr. President?
Mr. Lafferty.
Through the chair to Mr. Watts, the costs for abatement for residential properties typically go on the tax rolls. This resolution doesn't have the costs going to the assessor's office for allocation to the tax office, to the tax rolls. This is saying that they're going to be, all costs incurred will be billed to the owner of the property.
fair enough.
So I just wanted to make that distinction. This resolution doesn't send them to the tax rolls.
Fair enough.
So I like that idea, but
Right.
Thank you, Mr.
it's
Lafferty.
not the way it's written.
Any additional? Call the question, Mr. Lafferty.
Yes,
Mr.
with the
Watts.
amendment.
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Ms. Rogency,
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou,
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Green votes yes, item passes 7-0. Next item.
10B, which is a public hearing, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving the demolition of a commercial building located at 22,706 Van Dyke through the nuisance abatement program.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak regarding this item? Evening, Ms. Harris.
Hi. I just pulled up that address on my Google map. And I was looking at the houses next to that property, and they're so nice. And I'm thinking those neighbors have had to deal with a trashy piece of property not being cared for. It's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing how many people in our city have to put up with things that the city should have taken care of. But I also wanted to know, this is at Cadillac and Van Dyke, there's municipal parking, Warren Municipal Parking, behind the building on the other side of the street. So is this for a Warren building or Warren shoppers? But it's interesting that Warren Municipal Parking, that whoever put all the ground cover in and takes care of managing that, hasn't also fought to complain and to get this building taken care of. You know, it's a lovely street, and it's really sad these things are happening in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this item? Hearing or seeing none, I close the public hearing, turn the item over to council for action.
Motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty.
Discussion.
Discussion? Mr. Watts.
So this property has been a topic of discussion at the Tifa meeting. And this used to be the old boys club, I think YMC Boys Club back in the day. So I went down there and took a little closer look today. And I'm wondering, I know that there's been, when the Boys Club took over, they put this blue like metal over the building to make it look whatever they want it to look like, but underneath it, it's brick. And I'm hoping that Mr. Lezay can tell me what the inside might be like on this building.
It's my understanding, this building was brought in nuisance quite a while ago before I was worked here. And I believe the owner, I believe it took his house down during that hearing and this building at the same time. And I believe they held the building because I think felt bad because they tore the guy's house down and they were going to tear the building. So now obviously since the recent concerns on this building, I said we're bringing it back in because it's holding that area down. So we brought it back in, and it was my understanding that building was flooded. It was pretty bad inside from what I've heard, things I've heard about the building inside.
So you haven't...
I've never actually been
You haven't been in there, okay.
No.
All right. That's probably,
I've heard
that
it was-
vacant spot in the back is probably where the house
It
was.
was pretty, I've heard it was pretty nasty inside of this building.
I'll respect what you're telling me. So my concern was if the building could be saved, I'd like to save it. But I don't know if somebody along there has an interest in the property or the building is the other concern I have. And we're aggressively, well, I guess we're not aggressive because he says it's been years, but I look at us trying to save a bar that's falling down, but we're going to take this down. So it's kind of a concern to me. I'm going to vote to take this down because it needs to come down. I hate to see another piece of vacant property.
Yeah.
And I'll address Ms. Harris's thing. There was all kinds of city parking lots along Van Dyke when, guess what? Dinah Van Dyke was a downtown until they tore it down. So there's a lot of parking lots down there that are not being used right now. So it was a walkable downtown.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you. This is a little off topic, Mr. Lezay. I do want to tell you that I have been contacted by several residents lately commenting about you, what a fine job they think you're doing, and they appreciate your knowledge and your demeanor at council meetings and being forthright with your opinions and the work you're doing. So, thank you.
Mr.
Any
President.
additional?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lafferty, then Mr. Kaczynski.
Same amendment request for this one, same language
For costs.
as item A. Thank you.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Mr. President, if I can ask Mr. Lizay a question.
please.
Mr.
Mr. Lizay.
Please. I think there was some concern, and maybe you can answer this. I don't know if enough time has passed to answer this question. Not the original City Hall, but was this the replacement City Hall at one time? And is this building, before it was the Boys and Girls Club, is this considered a historical building? Because it was...
That, I can't, I don't have an answer. That I do not
Okay,
know. I've not been here long enough to know the
I believe that was
history of this
originally
building.
brought up, that this was not the original City Hall, but the City Hall that replaced the original City Hall at this location, and before it became the Boys and Girls Club. And there was some question whether it had some kind of historical significance, the building, to the city of Warren. I just wondered if that had been resolved at all.
I think the Historical Commission would have came up with that, but I haven't heard anything either. It's a good question to ask. Any additional?
That was it.
Thank you. Any additional? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passes 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 12A, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing First Amendment to interlocal governmental agreement for parks and recreation services between City of Sterling Heights and City of Warren. So moved.
Support Rogency.
Motion by Moore, support by Rogency. What's the details on this? Is this extending so Sterling Heights residents can use the community center?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
I would ask that this item be tabled until there can be a committee of whole on this here. I have heard from many City of Warren residents that the interaction between the agreement between the City of Sterling Heights and City of Warren, it has not been a very collegial relationship when City of Warren residents go to use City of Sterling Heights facilities, and that basically the City of Sterling Heights has gotten the better of the agreement here by using our facilities, but that especially going to Sterling Fest and using Dodge Park, that many residents have run into problems using the facilities there in the City of Sterling Heights. So I believe that this here should be tabled until there could be a committee of whole and further investigated and looked at.
Mr. President,
I have a motion. Is there support for the tabling?
support.
There's a motion by Kaczynski, support by Papandreou to table. Mr. Kaczynski to table.
Yes to table.
Mr. Papandreou.
Yes.
Ms. Rogency.
No.
And Ms. Moore.
No.
Mr. Lafferty.
No to table.
Mr. Watts.
No to table.
Green votes yes. Tabling motion failed 4-3.
Mr. President?
Ms. Moore.
Mr. Turcato? Could we?
Turn your mic down.
It's on. I don't know why it's not picking.
Come on up, Mr. Toccato.
You're the guy on this, right? Okay. Want to explain it?
Yes, go ahead.
Do you want to explain it so the residents know
Oh,
what
this
we're
is an
talking about?
agreement between City of Warren and Sterling Heights. The agreement started back in 2016. My predecessor offered them $100,000 to basically, for the members to join city council, to come into the community center. So this past year, since COVID, I have spoken with Kyle from Sterling Parks and Recreation. We negotiated a price of $75,000. We reduced it $25,000 due to the fact that they built their facility. We have less residents from Sterling Heights. At one time we had 600 to 700. We're down to about 200 to 250. But they do pay the membership price of $230, which is $40 more than a Warren resident. So the $75,000 is basically a maintenance fee that's on additional towards helping our pool system. I haven't run across any problems between the two. that our Warren residents, I haven't heard anything that our Warren residents are being mistreated going to Sterling, so I can't, say that, but
And as I understand the agreement, day passes aren't issued to Sterling residents until Warren would be issued day passes. Warren
correct, there will
residents.
be no day passes to them. That's also the reduction in it, correct?
Correct,
Thank you,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Any other?
Mr. President.
Mr. Watts, then Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Mr. Turcato, is our membership and our daily passes wide open now?
Our daily passes are not. We're making progress. We're getting a little more lifeguards, and when we get to that point, I think we can go for Warren daily passes. Warren daily passes, that's it. That's,
Okay, so,
I'm not there yet.
and
We're getting up-
memberships are open? Memberships are wide open?
Memberships are open for Warren residents. It will be for Sterling if you, for the agreement, and Centerline only. That's it.
Okay. How long before you think we'll be open to daily passes?
I don't have an exact date answer. The problem is we're up to almost 20 lifeguards. I know it doesn't sound like many, but we went from 8, we're almost to 20. Like the last other day, we talked about it again, Mr. Watson, and then I only had 2 lifeguards because 3 didn't come in the mornings. So it's such a catch-22 for that, that I think maybe if we get to 30, I can almost say we'll be ready for dailies, and maybe I'll do dailies a couple days a week, so a Friday or a Saturday, so I know I have enough lifeguards, I'm hoping. I don't know if we can get to every single day. That's, it's all predicated around lifeguards and staffing, and we're getting better. The kids are starting to come back to work. The signs are, it's turning a little bit, but just not quick enough yet. So maybe end of the summer, maybe during college time, if the kids come home, I can open it up. I will open it as soon as I can, honestly,
Well,
the dailies. I would love to say tomorrow, but I don't have that answer. I can't
we
say
need,
that.
we need to pick up the pace and get some more people hired. I don't care what it takes, but our residents are expecting this to be open. And we get complaints weekly, daily, whatever, about not being open, and people are paying taxes to use our facilities as well as the daily fee, and they expect these to be open. If you're not getting help from HR or you need more help, you need to say it, because we need to get people hired in this
No,
community.
it's not that. It's the kids out there. We go out. Adriana, every day we go to aquatics areas. We go to the school areas. She just took a couple from Grosse Pointe actually coming over. So like I explained to you, it's starting now. We're putting out the program here next week for summer help. We're going to pay up to $14, start the kids at $14. Anyone, I'm going to go to the churches, I'm going to go to the schools. I need 30, 40 of them to keep our parks clean this year. And so I was all over my staff. I had a staff meeting last week. I was like, look, we're going to have to start pounding the pavement. We're going to have to go find kids. We can't go like we did the last few years without anyone. It's frustrating. So I hear you. We're just as frustrated.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vice President,
Mr. Lafferty.
I want the record to reflect that the gavel has been passed to Mr. Watts for the moment. Mr. Turcato, the question I have is the number of lifeguards dictating how many people are, dictating who is issued a day pass, or limiting the number of day passes. I've got senior citizens that have called, and they just want a place to walk. They want to walk the inside track of the community center. We don't have lifeguards for that. Why can't we? I respect what you're doing, but I also I disagree vehemently with it. It's not good enough. For all the same reasons that Mr. Watts stated, I also agree with him. But we have to have a way to allow residents to use a facility they're paying for every single day with their taxes. Now, these people don't want to use the pool. They want to use everything else, but they want to use it on a daily basis. Maybe they can't afford a membership. They're being denied access. So I'd like you to go back and I don't want to wait until the kids come home from college or before, after the summer is over and, well, we made it through another summer, we didn't have enough lifeguards, and people still can't use the community center. I don't find that as an acceptable answer. I'm sorry, but I don't. It's not right. This place should be open and bustling for use 24/7, and we're within reason.
So, okay, I'll address that, and maybe we'll sell memberships that are for everything else but the pool area for that time. That's all I could kind of go in that direction, not being sarcastic about it, but I don't have, when the state comes down on me and says 1 every 20, and Mr. Green knows that with his daughter is doing it, I don't have a choice. And if I don't have lifeguards, I'll have to shut it down. So that's where I'm at. So maybe I can offer a membership where they don't go in the pool area, and I'll have to start doing wristbands for those and for the pool area. Like I said, I would love to open it all tomorrow, but that's kind of my dilemma on is I'm following the state guidelines that's saying safety first, and then we'll go from that point. But I love them. I love, like I said, I put it in the budget again for the golf simulators. We just met with a gaming company. Maybe we can get a gaming company. I want to get this thing rocking. Believe me. I just, and maybe at that point we can offer everything besides swimming. I'm not saying everyone comes swimming, like you said. Come to walk, they go to yoga, they work out. We're going to upgrade our facility. We're going to do all new equipment coming in, hopefully next month, painting the room. So we're trying, and if I can open everything up, maybe I'll talk to my staff, and then maybe we'll just open something without the pool for right now and open a facility that way, if that would be suffice.
I can understand the safety aspect all day long, and certainly state guidelines, lifeguarding, that all makes sense. And of course, we have to stay within those parameters, but everything else, the billiard room and the craft room and all of these other amenities that should be open for anyone should be allowed. So please, let's get on this and let's open it up. And April 1st is right around the corner. Let's make it happen.
That's my birthday, thank you.
Any additional? Call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry, is this Moore and
Angela, Ms. Rogancy.
Rogancy? Okay. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Green votes no. Item passed 5-2. Next item.
Next item is 12B, consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing a lease agreement between New Singular Wireless PCS LLC and City of Warren and City of Warren Downtown Development Authority and grant of easement.
Motion to approve with discussion?
Support Rogancy.
Motion by Moore, support by Rogancy. Discussion.
Mr. President?
Mr. Lafferty?
Oh, thank you. Good evening. Through the chair to Mr. Vinson. Can you please explain I read the contract, and it indicates that the City of Warren and vis-a-vis the DDA appear to be the owner of the tower. Are there other lease agreements that are already in place on this tower, or is this exclusive use of the tower? So I did see an exclusivity clause in this agreement.
Well, we have Mr. Steve Carr here, who's with AT&T. I think he can answer your question.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, your name again? I didn't hear.
It is Steve Carr, here representing AT&T Mobility, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC. There is currently an existing carrier already on this tower. That would be Verizon, that occupies the tower now. We would be the second occupier of the tower.
All right. And so as I was looking through this, I do not see any restrictions for you to sublease the tower.
We wouldn't be subleasing it. You guys own the structure.
Understood, but your section, are you being given a specific section of the tower?
Yes, an elevation on the tower, yes.
Okay. And so the only issue that I have is I do not see a restriction for your particular elevation that would restrict you from entering into an agreement and providing an antenna for another provider.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that. It would interfere with our antennas. We would exclusively use our RAD center to broadcast our signal for us only.
Okay. Through the chair to Mr. Vinson, do you have any concern with subleasing the particular elevation?
No, not with regard to this tenant, no. As a matter of fact, I think you're going to take the tower down.
So basically, we are reducing the height of the tower at our expense. That will eliminate the need for the tower to be lit anymore. It allows the tower to handle the additional load, and that is all at our expense. And you'll also eliminate an expense of a light being monitored at that said facility. And we will also, per the agreement, have take all the necessary steps with the FAA to document that reduction of that said structure.
Okay. That answers my questions. I have no other, no other questions.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you. My concern is where it's located. I know we're going to be building a new court. Is this going to interfere that in any way that property? Because we have a habit in this city of, not beautifying properties when we build something new and not holding people to make them, nice. Even, a drugstore in Warren looks very different than a drugstore in Birmingham or Rochester. I mean, point in fact, the prison wall by my neighborhood that separates us into, cell block H up there. But I'm just worried about the aesthetics if it's going to have any effect on the new court building.
No, no, it won't.
It won't? Okay, thank you.
Any additional?
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
I believe this is the tower next to the police station.
That's correct.
Do we still, I don't know if you're going to know Mr. Vinson, so maybe he'll know. Do we still have antennas for our police radio system located there?
Yes, yes, you do, and we are responsible for moving those down at a specific elevation for you all, and we are purchasing you guys new antennas at that said RAD center.
Okay.
So there's no expenses for you. We've been working with the consultant for the county to assist in all of this.
Because I know at one time we were on our own radio system. We combined with the county simulcast, so I just wanted to make sure that we're taking care of that.
Yep,
so
we're going to reattach the new antennas at our expense.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Any additional? Call the question, Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Ms. Rogency.
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes?
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou.
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is 12C, consideration and adoption of a resolution supporting the opt-in option in the matter of national opioid litigation, City of Warren versus the Pain Center USA PLLC et al. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Well, we've certainly come a long way. We've come from knowing nothing and things being done behind our back, settlements entered into without council authority. We fixed those, but now we have regular communication from the attorneys in New York that have keeping us up to date. They send status reports, and I feel very comfortable entering into this agreement, this opt-in. Thank you.
Any additional?
May I point out a correction needs to be made?
Mr. Vinson, thank you.
The
Go
way
ahead.
this is titled, it says National Opioid Litigation, City of Warren versus the Pain Center. That was the prior litigation. This case that we're opting into involves litigation against Teva, Allergan, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
We will get that amended on the resolution. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Mr. President,
Mr. Watts?
do we know if are we close to a settlement on this? Is that why we're opting in?
Yes, it's been settled.
Okay. So then the money's going to come towards us, right, to deal with? Okay.
Any additional? Call the question, Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Ms. Rogency.
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 13A, discussion in re ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the Warden Code of Ordinances relating to open government, second reading. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion, Ms. Moore.
As we've talked about this from the time we brought this up a few weeks ago, a lot of residents and even city employees have given me suggestions of things that if we want to be open and transparent that we should have on our website, like online applications for jobs, lists of openings, boards and commission fillable applications, you know, all those kind of things. I think we can work with communications department. They know how to do all these things. And, you know, maybe we'll start with council office, you know, making sure we have fillable forms and things on, because a lot of people don't have printers in their homes. And this way they can fill out something and just send it. So that's just one more thing. And I think this will be a sort of a process, and, you know, we'll figure out how it best works going forward.
Sure.
So,
Good.
yes.
Any additional? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts? Yes. Mr. Rogency?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
13B, discussion in rate ordinance to amend Chapter 9 of the Warren Code of Ordinances relating to accessibility standards, second reading. Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion.
Right. So we asked for this standard to be, this ordinance to be upgraded to the latest ANSI standards and different standards. I did receive correspondence, I don't know if everybody got it or not,
Yes.
that we're not following that because the Michigan code hasn't adopted it yet, right? So anyway, the city wants us to hold off on it. I don't see any reason why we can't at least have it written, and we can table it maybe until it's adopted by the state. They think it's going to be, the new ordinance will be, or not ordinance, but the state laws, statute will be probably in effect at the end of this year, 2023. So we can just have it waiting, and then we'll have it ready to go, and we'll just approve the second reading, but for now, we'll table it.
To a date specific? Table it to a date specific? Table it to the first meeting in January 24?
24? Yeah, sure.
Motion table by Moore.
Support to table.
Can you table to another session of council? Maybe you should bring it back like in the fall.
Bring it in the fall. How about October, how about the
I'll withdraw my support.
last meeting in October?
Second meeting in October, got it. Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion. Okay? Oh, there's a motion to table. sorry.
Table, motion to table.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty.
Yes to table.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Ms. Rogency.
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea.
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed, or items tabled 7-0. Next item.
Next item is 13C, consideration and adoption of the annual police towing list as recommended by the Warren Police Commissioner. Motion to approve
Support.
with discussion.
Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Discussion.
Yeah, we don't have the list. We weren't sent it.
We just had our meeting. Mr. Watts was going to give you a nice report.
Got it. I got it.
This was emailed to everyone just before
What's
the
the list?
meeting.
So
I didn't see, because I saw the Nooners outside, but I don't see them on.
the recommended list is Able Towing, Bill's Towing, Ellis Brothers Towing, M&D Towing, and Service Towing.
Those are the 5.
Sorry. Point of order, Mr. President.
I still have the floor.
Ms. Moore?
Who is Nooners under?
I see it.
They are Bill's and M&D.
Okay.
He knows.
And where all do you have facilities? Sorry.
Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, thanks.
Matt Nooner, Nooner's Towing. Both of Bill's and M&D Towing are located at 27365 Mount Road.
Okay. Now, do you have locations throughout the?
We have another location in East Point, different affiliation, different name, Woods Towing. also owned by Nooners.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Any additional?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lafferty?
I misspoke. The proposed towing list was emailed out to the subcommittee this afternoon. So it was, and the subcommittee only met an hour before council this afternoon.
Any additional? Motion by Moore, support by Watts. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Papandrea?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14A, which was tabled 3/14/2023, request of the Property Maintenance Director to extend the award for rodent control services through June 30, 2029 to Landscape Services, Inc. in an annual amount not to exceed $355,000, consideration and adoption of a resolution.
Motion to remove from the table?
Support.
Motion by Lafferty, support by Rogancy to remove from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items removed from the table. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Motion by Lafferty, support by Rogancy. Discussion? Discussion, Mr. Lafferty?
I'll defer.
No,
Ms. Rogancy?
just supporting you. Go ahead.
Oh, I had no specific questions. I was opening up for discussion if anybody had some.
Mr. President,
I'll go
Mr.
there.
Kaczynski?
I was the one that asked for this to be tabled, so I have questions for Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council.
So I don't know if you got a chance to review the last council meeting. We had a pastor here that has a church facility and had a house that's next to the church facility or in the vicinity of it, and they had a lot of problems what he spoke of with rodents and the house being infested with rodents and the rodents basically having the run of the neighborhood kind of a deal, and he spoke of that. And I know we've authorized a lot of money to handle rodent control, and yet there's problems with rodents as he has specified. And I know I've heard from many residents. I know we have the feral cat program to try to reduce the amount of mice and rats and that kind of thing, but can you speak on the infestation that he was talking about and the kind of funds we're spending and how it's actually resulting?
Well, it results in the same thing that we've been dealing with for the last 4 years. We try to educate as much as we can. I never have seen a request from that church or the house next to it. I would be happy to send out an inspector to take a look at it, see if in fact they are being harbored on that premise, and get some bait boxes out there and get the program going. We don't hold back from anyone. It is imperative that we keep going the way we're going with the construction that we have out there. We have predominantly most of our baited houses are on the east side of the city. Our current construction projects are on the west side of the city. Mound Road, Ryan Road, DeQuinder. We opened up 10 Mile, we opened up 11 Mile. The rats are migrating. We're getting hit with all the complaints from that side of the city now. As soon as they come in, and I mean, as soon as they come in the morning, they come in, it's assigned to an inspector. He goes out, he takes the permission slip, he presents the program. He, as I did with Mr. Lafferty 3 years ago when he had a problem in his neighborhood. Then I was the inspector. I went out there, we put a little program on, we gave the brochures, we tried to educate people the best we can. All the inspectors have went through a training class. Unfortunately, we haven't had a recent one, so I need to look into that. But we educate them as much as we possibly can, and with the global warming and the weather, it's just not killing them off. I even brought you guys a description of the rodenticides that we use in the traps from our provider, we had a person question the dangerousness to children and other pets from the stuff we use. We were investigated by the state of Michigan last year. We got a clean bill of health that our product is the best on the market and it is safe for children and other pets, and I was very happy with that. They contacted me. They sent me a letter. I have that letter on file. I have the ingredients to the rodenticide that we use, so I can present it to people when they have questions about it. So all we can do is educate people the best we can. When they ask for help, we're happy to give it.
Sir, when we have a nuisance abatement of a house, let's say it's been abandoned for a long time, or, you know, it's in disrepair, are we finding that it is a rodent harbinger for rodents getting into the crawl space and getting into the house and that kind of thing?
Usually no. It's more of the abandoned vehicles. They're attracted more to the abandoned vehicles. They like to eat the wires off the vehicles in the engine compartment. We're finding a lot of problems with that. We're trying to get as many cars towed. I don't know if you guys are aware that we started a program, the mayor did, and with these nuisance abatement houses, this is why you're seeing so many of them. We have houses that go back to 2006 that are currently listed as vacant registered in our city. Well, I'm taking all those vacant registers and we are going out and we're turning it into Paul Lizzie, and he is doing the nuisance abatement on those. So that's just more that you're going to see more and more of that. There's more to come.
Okay, and my last question, give me just a second. President Green, where was the address of that church again? Was it on Jackson, if I remember?
Which one?
The pastor that was here for the last council meeting. I believe the church he presided over, was that on Jackson Street?
I don't recall.
It was Jackson down around Sherwood, I thought.
Yeah, Jackson and Sherwood was his church, sir.
Okay, I'll check into it in the morning.
Okay. My last question was, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, come back to me.
Well, I had a couple questions for you, but you kind of answered some of them because I'm concerned, you know, I'm looking at tonight, we paid another $22,000 in rodent control. And I'm concerned that we're not getting ahead of the game.
Honestly, the answer to Mr. Watts is progress. Tina's crew, they're out there, they're doing a wonderful job fixing our roads, and that's part of our problem. The weather's part of our problem because we just don't have the cold winters to kill them off.
But, okay, so, and I understand all that. I get all that. But I get a phone call, and like I said earlier, I go to look at something, and I find 10 more things. And Mr. Scott, I'm struggling here to find out why the city's not getting cleaned up.
You think you're struggling. I sit there and listen to you bring up the Burger King. And you think that I don't want to go out there and clean that Burger King up after that fire? I have parameters that I have to abide by. I can't just go out there. I have the companies, the insurance companies, if they're involved, they all put a hold on it. I can't touch that stuff to a certain amount of time. So I have to look at it just like you do. And I'll tell you, I don't enjoy getting phone calls when they tell me this section of the city or that section. I had a lady last week call me about the ramp at 696 in Hoover. A wonderful lady, not just as nice as could be, but she had a problem with the way it looked. I called the county no less than 4 times. Gus called the county. It's their job. We couldn't get anything to do it. So I sent Blightbusters out there to do it. This weekend, I come to visit my mom. I get off at 696 in Hoover, and guess what? It looks worse than it did
Just like
4
it
days
did.
ago when I had the guys clean it up. Somehow there was fiberglass insulations thrown all over the place. So first thing I did Monday morning is I sent Blightbusters back out there to clean the stuff. It's an over and over thing, and we do the best we can. We're trying to hire people. We're trying to hire more Blightbusters. I sent 2 inspectors and the supervisors of Blightbusters to a job fair this week at a high school. High school's getting ready to close up. I got some kids that don't plan on going to college. I thought it might be a good idea. I got 2 more set up in the future here, one on the 13th of April, one on the 17th of April. And out of that whole day that the inspector and the manager of Playbusters spent there, we got 1 application. 1 kid thought that the city of Warren might be a good opportunity. What do I do? You guys give me 25, you give me 25 inspectors. I put the applications out right now. I have 3 approved positions empty because I can't find nobody to hire.
So, I mean, you know, like today, I went to look at 3 things, two nuisance abatements, and I had another complaint. And I went to the other complaint, and I find all this blight in the neighborhood. I haven't turned that in yet to you, but I'm struggling with this, okay? And I gotta be honest with you, I don't know where else to go. You guys hate my guts, and that's okay. I got big shoulders, but I'm doing my job. I get citizens, hang on, let me talk.
It's not a personal matter.
Let me talk. I get complaints every day, you know, and you guys have come here and you've attacked me, and, you know, the mayor sends all you guys here and all that kind of stuff. And I'm good with that, because I'm doing my job. That's what I was elected to do. So here's what I'm going to do. We're not going to sit here and debate it at the microphone. I'm going to challenge you. Come do a driving with Gary, and let's tour some spots and see if my concerns are legitimate.
I do a driving with Gus every Wednesday morning. We go in a specific area, and we write everything we see. We come in at noon, we give it to the inspector, and we assign him to take care of it.
Dino's got a bus.
I don't know how you think you know more about it than I do. I really don't, but I guess you do. So if you think it's a personal thing, you're way off, because it's not.
Well, listen, I think I do know more, because I'm out there every day.
I've been working these roads for 40 years.
Guess what? I've lived here longer than that.
Mr. Watts, let's move on. Thank you. Mr. Kabzinski, you back on track?
It didn't come back to me, so.
All right, email him.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any additional? All right, call the question. We have Lafferty and Rogancy. Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy.
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes?
Mr. Watts?
Yes, reluctantly.
Mr. Kabzinski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Next item.
14B, request the engineering division for a transfer of funds between line items in the amount of $23,175 to cover the costs of a site evaluation report for the transfer station and contractual obligations with GELC 227 collective bargaining agreement. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. 5 votes are needed for this item. My motion to approve.
Support Lafferty.
Motion by Moore, support by Lafferty. Discussion? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Papandreou?
Yes.
Ms. Rogancy?
Yes.
Mr. Kabzinski?
Yes.
Green votes yes. Item passed 7-0. Next item.
14C, request the engineering division for an additional appropriation of funds in the amount of $76,458 to cover the costs of additional traffic signal repairs with MDOT program 200238CON in association with MDOT contract number 185420.